Well, Major Glenn Ignacio joins us, retired Air Force Special Operations Commander. Let me start with that and Putin, Glenn, if I can. And, seems obviously like a warning to the United States, right? What did you make of it?
Yeah, I mean, if we take a look at it, the original request to remove these restrictions started in August. And then in September is when Putin actually adjusted his constitution to say that a nuclear state that backs a non-nuclear state could trip into a attack or be defined as attack. And then recently, as you just mentioned, it actually lowers the standard to say what is the trigger that would do that. And that is exactly what just happened, which is the launch of these type of weapons is actually a trigger that he has defined. Again, non-nuclear support, excuse me, a non-nuclear state supported by a nuclear state, thus saying that the United States has just attacked Russia. That's by definition what he's saying.
Right. That's why it shook up the financial markets a little bit this morning because, like, to your point, what he's literally saying, whether he follows through on is another matter altogether, but because of what happened, he could use nuclear weapons. That's what he's saying, according to this doctrine, technically. Now, on the tablet, the Ukrainians did not waste any time using these weapons, right? I suppose that we've been reporting on this week, this Army tactical missile system. You see some of the specs on it in terms of range and weight and what have you. And on the map, I mentioned this coming in. This is the area right up here where they fired into Russian territory, right? So what about that, and what comes next?
Yeah, it's a great point. The range has about 190 nautical miles, and that area that you're showing on the map to everybody, that goes into that Kursk area. And you and I talked about it as like, hey, that's actually a sort of a long pitch for Ukraine to go into that area because of logistics and manpower and so forth. So what this is really doing, I mean, if we take a look at the state of warfare, is Ukraine is striking Russia. Russia is taking out infrastructure and striking Ukraine significantly, but it always comes down to the land and territory that is occupied. And right now, Russia has about a fifth of Ukraine. One of the things, and again, a repetitive thing we've talked about, is that the manpower of the two sides is really what's going to define this. Everybody's getting weapons from everybody. And so what's happened is, with the thousands killed on both sides, Russia now has that treaty that's just been ratified with North Korea, and North Korean soldiers are backing up and giving those reserves to Russia. The problem is, on the Ukraine side, again, losing thousands, they don't have anybody to give them those type of reserves. And honestly, that's where the weapons will help them out. But it's also the biggest concern is that this can't go that much longer unless NATO gets involved. And that might be a tactic, and I hope we don't go that way.
Well, we're coming in on a new administration here, obviously, in the United States as well. So is the most likely kind of next step over the next 6 months or so some sort of a negotiation, new Trump administration and everybody involved, where Ukraine does give up some territory?
Honestly, I think that's the case. One of the big critiques for me over this entire thing is what is the success criteria? You say, Zelensky, we're going to win this war. By what? Does that mean Russia's completely out of the country? What do we see? And one of the things about this administration that we currently have, again, apolitically, is that we haven't heard anything other than the beefing up in warfare. So one of the things that I believe Trump is going to pursue, and I think this is a smart thing, is a ceasefire. A ceasefire will stop the killing on both sides, halt the lines, and be able to then discuss and negotiate what can happen, both bringing Russia to the table and Ukraine to the table and saying, hey, you've got to settle this. And right now, they're not talking. That would be a strong position for America to take to get this to hopefully end.
All right, Glenn, thank you as always. Major Glenn Ignacio with us today. Speaking of